angels, fall without a sound. And when they do, they don't awaken heaven, but the hell that slept within them.
Gilles de Rais was a hero, a saint, a soldier of God, until the fire that once illuminated his faith began to consume it, because those who seek God too close to the fire end up hearing another voice that answers too.
And that voice was the one that called him by name. In the 15th century, when France still bled between crusades and prayers, a child was born, marked by divine fire. His name was Gilles de Rais, heir to one of Brittany's richest lineages, cultured, devout, educated in theology, strategy, and art. A soldier of God, with the soul of a preacher.
A nobleman with both sword and faith. The kind of man the world admires before it fears him.
By 25, he was already Marshal of France. He led armies, protected kings, and marched beside a maiden who spoke with God, Joan of Arc. They fought side by side as if heaven and earth battled in the same army, and every victory they won was a hymn.
To him, Joan was not just a warrior. She was the miracle that proved God still spoke to men.
His banner bore a golden cross. His soldiers said that when Gilles advanced, the light followed him. He was a hero, a soldier of God, the sword of France.
But every sword cuts both ways.
And the fire that illuminates the saint can also be the one that consumes him. The fire that once guided his sword returned to claim his soul. Joan of Arc burned at the stake, and with her, everything Gilles held sacred. They say he didn't scream. He only watched the smoke rise and understood that even the heavens could burn.
No one survives watching their faith die. Because when the miracle fades, the silence begins to speak.
He returned to Brittany carrying the weight of a glorious name and an empty heart. The villagers welcomed him like a saint, but in his eyes, God was gone. His prayers were murmurs, his temples, hollow echoes. The hero who marched with the light returned with the shadow behind him.
They say men who cannot kill their memories try to reenact them. And Gilles tried with gold.
He built theaters as majestic as cathedrals, filled the stages with saints, choirs, and paper angels. Each play was a mass, each applause a confession.
But he wasn't seeking entertainment. He sought invocation. He wanted God to look at him one last time.
He spent his fortune on silks, stained glass, and heavenly choirs. He turned his guilt into spectacle, his prayer into applause.
The problem with gods is that they don't attend theaters where they are no longer the protagonist.
When the final curtain fell, Gilles heard his own echo answer back, and he realized there was no one left above, listening.
Silence became his mass, solitude his only companion. And it was in that silence he understood that faith doesn't die of doubt. It dies of loneliness.
Silence didn't kill him. It transformed him. When heaven fell silent, Gilles decided to speak to the shadows, and they answered. In the empty halls of his castles, the hero began to study forbidden books. Grimoires written in dead tongues, alchemies that promised gold and salvation. But what he sought was not wealth. It was redemption.
The man who cannot find God ends up seeking him in the fire.
By day, he pretended to be a nobleman. By night, he lit candles before pentagrams. The same man who once raised crosses now drew circles. He said he made no pacts with demons, only questioned the Creator through other means, because the silence of God he could no longer bear.
And so, in the midst of darkness, Gilles called out to the void, but the void answered.
During one of his invocations amid smoke and flame, a figure rose from the fire. It had no face, only a voice wrapped in gold. And that voice called him by name.
He believed it an angel, but angels do not speak with promises. They speak with warnings.
That night, the knight of France believed he had touched heaven, not realizing the ground beneath him was already burning.
From that day on, the fire never left him. He slept beside it, ate before it, prayed to it. He called it light. But that light no longer came from heaven.
They say he began to lose his mind, that he saw shadows move behind stained glass, that he spoke to voices only he could hear.
And when the soul can no longer distinguish between faith and madness, there's no difference between God and the mirror.
The hero who once protected the innocent now offered their purity to the flame, not out of hate, but desperation.
Because true hell doesn't wait for anyone. It's built alone, with the need to believe in something, even if it's the abyss.
From marshal to sorcerer, from soldier of God to servant of the void.
And the void finally answered.
When the truth finally reached his walls, it wasn't the demon who came for him. It was the church. Rumors had spread across France. Missing children, profane chants, prayers in tongues no saint understood. The hero of Orléans had become the terror of Brittany.
The same heaven that once crowned him now called him monster.
He was captured in 1440. In his cell, Gilles did not deny. He wept. He said he had sought God in the fire and found only silence. I sinned out of vanity, not hatred. That was all he repeated until the end.
And in those words, there was truth. He didn't wish to be evil. He only wanted to feel once more the voice that had made him live.
The trial was public. The same crowd that once shouted his name in glory now spat it in fear.
The hero couldn't understand why they hated him. Had he not served the same God who now condemned him?
He was declared guilty of heresy and murder. Sentence: hanging, followed by fire. The same fire that had once illuminated him.
They say he asked one final wish: to confess and die as a Christian. And when the priest offered him the cross, he kissed it with the peace of one returning home.
The man who defied heaven died looking toward it. No screams, no fury, only tears. He asked the crowd to pray for him. And when the fire enveloped him, he didn't beg for mercy. He only murmured his name. And Joan's.
He saw her among the flames. Perhaps the fire was not punishment, but reunion.
The ashes of Gilles de Rais scattered in Nantes. His body vanished, but his story did not burn with him.
Because not all demons are born in hell. Some were angels who loved the light too much.
He asked for a sign, but heaven remained closed.
Perhaps the sign was the fire.
The fire went out, the smoke rose to heaven, and silence reclaimed its throne. The ruins of Tiffauges were covered in dust, and within its walls, even today, the air seems to whisper his name.
Not as a prayer, as a warning.
The ruins of Tiffauges were covered in dust, and within its walls, even today, the air seems to whisper his name.
The monster everyone fears was just a man who couldn't bear losing God.
History called him murderer, heretic, madman. And perhaps he was, but before all that, Hamu, he was a believer.
A believer left alone. And loneliness, when it kneels, prays in any direction that answers back.
Hell is not a place. It is the memory of those who were saints and dared to stare into the abyss.
Because whoever seeks the voice of God among the shadows must be ready to hear the echo of himself.
Gilles was not the devil. He was a man who loved the light too much, until the fire blinded him.
The hero didn't die in the fire, he merely returned to it.
And in that fire, he left us his lesson, that faith without humility becomes pride.
And pride always ends up praying in the language of hell.